Well, I pretty much decided that the whole AI thing and all of that, that is, I remember my mother would never use that newfangled thing called the answering machine. She refused. I remember my wife would never use email. It was too difficult and too weird. And now I realize that I have arrived at that stage where I will not use AI.
Mhm. Good.
Mhm.
And of
Uh,
course, those younger than I think I'm just being stubborn. I will say one thing though. I did read a brilliant essay in the New York Times that talked about the problem that teachers are having with AI. And the guy who wrote it is this fella, Clay Shirky, who's very smart about things, internet and connected. And he said, well, here's the secret. The secret is you give oral exams and you demand that papers be written in cursive, which I thought, yeah, that'll keep everybody on track. So we'll see how that works out.
Problem with that, Duncan, is that person writing in cursive only has to come from whatever AI produces on his computer,
Yeah,
unless it's a supervised exam.
yeah.
Okay.
But the oral part works.
Yeah.
The oral part works. And I mean, I have very poor handwriting. I write in a kind of block print.
Yeah. Me too.
Okay. But it's readable.
Yeah.
So,
I was listening to a discussion on the national radio within the last couple of weeks,
Yeah.
and they were basically talking about how we now have so many gadgets to help us that we're not using our brains anymore. And this is not really on the AI discussion, but it's people who use calculators to calculate. They no longer know how to do their maths in their head. And
Mm.
it's but they're saying that the outcome of this in years to come will be earlier onset Alzheimer's because we're not using our brains the way we should. So
Yeah,
I don't
I
expect
have I have
that to
been in
happen.
shops where you hand in cash and they haven't really been able to work out how much to give me back. I
That's true.
genuinely I have. That is
Yeah.
true
Mhm,
because
mhm.
they're not used to it.
Right.
You
Well, I do know that among many younger Japanese, that they no longer know how to write Japanese. They know how to read it,
Oh,
but they can no longer write it fluently.
but that's
Yeah.
very complicated to write, I imagine.
yes.
Yeah, it takes some doing. I assure you, I've been working at it all my life, and I'm probably not going to make it in this lifetime. But matter of fact, I was just doing a new project today. I've been watching more Kurosawa movies, and I've worked out this strange system. I think it'll work though, where I get the subtitles in English and then I translate them into Japanese,
Oh,
and then I look at the characters used in that and the pronunciation, and then I can watch the movies again if I want to, if I'm concerned about how accurate it is.
Oh, Ann and I just went to see Seven Samurai.
Well, good for you.
Yes, it was
Uh,
wonderful. It's quite an amazing movie.
I don't know of any movies of his that are not amazing. I took a friend yesterday and we went to see a police procedural called High and Low.
I never saw that.
Well, anyway. Spike Lee and Denzel Washington have just made an American version of that
Mm,
yeah.
called Highest to Lowest.
mm.
Anyway, it was marvelous. And it was the first time that my friend had seen any of his movies, and she was stunned.
Yeah. But
Anyway, that's
going back to the other point you were raising about the Japanese language, like one of the piece of advice I got about deferring dementia is to learn a new piece of language every day, any language at all in the world. And you may say, well, it's a bit late for me. I've already lost it most of my mind. But but I have been sort of reviving an interest in languages I once had, and it really does work. You just learn one new word.
Yes, yes, I
Yes,
totally
well,
agree.
Duolingo is great for that, Joe, if you've heard of it. Duolingo,
Oh yeah.
you can learn a new language now. Like my late brother was learning Irish on Duolingo, and he got an exercise every day, and it was all part of keeping his brain active. You know?
Yeah, that's what you need. Someone and Duolingo, is that an app or a
Yeah.
website?
It's an app.
System, I
let me
think.
go check. Duolingo and app stuff.
Yep.
If I Google
Yes, it's an app.
Oh, it's an app. It's very easy to download.
yeah, that's right. That's the sort of thing I have.
Yeah. But you could do Sanskrit, Joe. It'd be very handy for Joycean references, you know?
Oh, Sanskrit, wonderful. Yes, our English teacher recommended it all to us. He was nuts. Back at school.
Well,
Bloody
I
stuff.
think I've told you before, every Saturday I read Ulysses in Portuguese, Brazilian Portuguese.
Yeah.
And then an hour later I'm doing it in French.
Yeah.
And actually, my big discovery is that I actually learn languages better. I'm not fluent in either, and I will not accomplish that in this lifetime. But I am improving, and my discovery is I learn foreign languages better when I'm doing more than one.
Yes, that makes sense.
And they usually the quote professionals usually advise against that because they say that the multiple languages will contaminate each other. And actually, that is not my experience at all. There's no contamination. I think because I do them kind of together, my brain somehow has figured out, no, this one is here and that one is there.
Apparently, when you learn a
I
piece of
think it's important. Sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
you learn a piece of your language, it creates a new link in your brain. You know, the problem is we're losing links in our brain every day, but this process it replaces the ones you're losing in a sense. And so there you go. Anyway, I don't know.
I was thinking, Joe, so I was thinking that in Duncan's case, what he's doing, you could probably get permission for that.
Donna, maybe it's just me, but your voice is skipping.
Sorry, I said that for what you're doing, maybe you could get medication for that.
Medication for
You
that.
says in 2 different languages.
Well, if I start speaking Portuguese, mixing Portuguese with my English, just let me know.
We'll pull you up. Don't worry.
Okay. All that is somehow related to the fact that today is the first Monday, September 1st, and today on the first Monday of the month is when we share things that we have individually found, poems, essays, pieces of literature, etc. So with that being said, I would invite our first sharer, Anne, to begin.
Okay. So I'm going to read from Dylan Thomas, and it's a radio broadcast from 1947, where the narrator is walking through Swansea seeking his younger self. And it's Dylan Thomas, when he went back there after a 3-night blitz, which was I looked it up, the 19th to 21st of February in 1941. And it's just, his writing is very moving, and it's sad, and it's funny, and it's a bit of everything. So I'll just read the introduction to it. And I find the opening lines describe the Swansea, just absolutely perfectly. It's shocking. It's probably what we see every night on television. And it says, it was a cold, white day in High Street, and nothing to stop the wind slicing up from the docks. For where the squat and tall shops had shielded the town from the sea, lay their blitz flat graves, marvelled with snow and headstoned with fences. Dogs delicate as cats on water, as though they had gloves on their paws, padded over the vanished buildings. Boys romped, calling high and clear on top of a levelled chemist and a shoe shop. And a little girl wearing a man's cap threw a snowball in a chill, deserted garden that had once been the jug and bottle of the Prince of Wales. The wind caught up the street with a soft sea noise hanging on its arm, like a hooter in a muffler. I could see the swatted hills stepping up out of the town, which you never could see properly before, and the powdered fields of the roofs of Milton Terrace and Watkin Street and Fuller's Row. Fish frailed, net-bagged, umbrellaed, pixie cap, fur shoes, blue nose, pew-slipped, blinkered like dray horses, scarved, mittened, galoshed, wearing everything but the cat's blanket. Crushes of shopping women crunched in the little Lapland of the once grey drab street. Blew and queued and yearned for hot tea as I began my search through Swansea town, cold and early on that wicked February morning. I went into the hotel and said good morning. Now, that's a very vivid view of the whole city, and you could see mothers everywhere, and they're queuing and they're freezing and they long for hot tea. Then actually at times it gets funny because he meets different people and he asks them, do they remember him long ago, without saying who he is, and they all have different stories, like when they brought him to a morgue. To remember when I took you to the mortuary for the first time, young Thomas? He'd never seen a corpse before, boys, except old Ron on a Saturday night. If you want to be a proper newspaper man, I said, you've got to be well known in the right circles. You've got to be persona grata in the mortuary, see? He went pale, green. And when we got there, what do you think? The decorators were at it at the mortuary, giving the old home a bit of a redo. Up on the ladders, having a slap on the roof. Young Thomas didn't see them. He had his Popeyes glued on the slab. And when one of the painters up the ladder said, good morning, gents, in a deep voice, he upped in the air and out of the place like a ferret. And then everybody laughs. And then they also talk about young Thomas when he was working for this paper. Ever seen young Thomas covering a soccer match down the vetch and working it out in tries?
Okay.
Tries would be the score for rugby, Duncan.
Okay.
He was at
Used
the
to be a
wrong
football.
sport. Pardon?
I said that's the vetch field he's referring to there, which
Yeah.
is an old football ground.
Yeah, but he was making out the scores in tries because
Yeah.
all he knew was rugby. So there is funny in it, but it's a really, really lovely read. And I listened today on YouTube because you can listen to him reading the whole thing. So I read along with him. It's lovely.
Ah,
That's me.
Yeah, I love Dylan Thomas.
Yeah, me too.
He's a favorite. Yeah.
Mm.
I like the way he builds up the scene and details,
Yeah.
which is very good. That makes it it makes any interpretation of it a joint product, an obvious joint product between the writer and the reader.
And there is a funny bar scene as well where the barmaid is talking to like a couple of different customers and they're asking questions and they're talking about the snow and the cold and it reminded me of Joyce the way You have to like read it and read it again and read it again to know who's talking. It's really nice. And another thing in it, he does loads of lists.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, he does loads of lists. Yes.
He does. He does lots and lots of lists. He names all the shops and buildings that have fallen down. He names the people who have died. Loads and loads of lists. Yeah, it's a really nice read.
Lovely.
And that's available on
On YouTube, yes, I just
On
put in
YouTube?
the name, The Return Journey.
And what is the name of it exactly? Return Journey?
The Return Journey. It's a radio broadcast. He used to do radio broadcasts with BBC, and it's in 1947. Now, the Blitz happened in 1941, and I assume that's when he went back. But it's lovely. It's lovely.
So but you have a printed copy.
Oh yes, when we did Under the Milkwood, I have a few books by Dylan Thomas. This
Yeah,
one
I
has
know.
all his works in it. It
And
says
it's
he's
called,
broadcast.
I thought I had everything. The Return Journey?
Yeah, The Return Journey.
Oh, in
It
1947.
He did. Have you got the ones he did for the BBC with the BBC?
Oh, okay. Maybe that's why. But
It's broadcast. He did Memories of Christmas, Holiday Memory, The Festival, A
Yeah, I
Visit to
have.
America, and A Return Journey. These were all
Okay.
different broadcasts that he did.
All right. I think we're probably ready for Donna.
Okay. Thanks, Dan. Last month, I went back to the past to John Milton, my reading. So I'm staying in the past for my reading this week. It's the Rime of the Ancient Mariner by Samuel Taylor Coleridge. Don't know if you're all familiar with it. It's a very long poem, so I'm not going to read it all, but I'm going to read the start and the finish. And to give the story away at the start, this is the story of an old sailor, and he had shot bird. What's the name of the bird?
Albatross. He shot the
An
albatross.
He shot the albatross, which, of course, for a sailor and for ship people is very bad luck. And his punishment for doing this is that he has to tell his story over and over again. So this is how it goes. The Rime of the Ancient Mariner.
Mhm.
It is an ancient mariner, and he stoppeth one of three. By thy long grey beard and glittering eye, now wherefore seest thou me? Bridegroom's doors are open wide, and I am next of kin. The guests are met, the feast is set, mayest hear the merry din. Hold the hand, was it this? Quoth he. Hold on me, grey-beard loon, as soon as his hand drops he. Holds him with his glittering eye. The wedding guest stood still, and listened like a 3 years child, mariner his will. Wedding guest sat on a stone, he cannot choose but hear, and thus spake on that ancient man, the bright-eyed mariner. The ship was cheered, the harbour cleared, merrily did we drive, below the hill, below the lighthouse top. Sun came up on the left, out of the sea came he, and he shone bright, and on the right went down into the sea. Higher and higher every day, till over the mast at noon, the wedding guest he beat his breast, for he heard the loud bassoon. The bride had paced into the hall, red as a rose is she, nodding their heads before her goes the merry minstrelsy. The wedding guest he beat his breast, yet he cannot choose but hear, and thus spake on that ancient man, the bright-eyed mariner. And now the storm blast came, and he was tyrannous and strong. He struck with his oar-taking wings, and chased us south along, with sloping masts and dipping prow, as who pursued with yell and blow, still treads the shadow of his foe, and forward bends his head. The ship loud roared the blast, and southward aye we fled. And now there came both mist and snow, and it grew hope and heat. Mast high came floating by, as green road. Through the drifts the snowy did send a dismal sheen, nor shapes of men nor beasts we ken, the ice was all between. The ice was here, the ice was there, the ice was all around. It cracked, growled, and roared and howled like noises in a swound. At length did cross an albatross, through the fog it came, and if it had been a Christian soul, we hailed it in God's name. It ate the food it ne'er had ate, and round it flew. The ice did split with a thunder fit, the helms through. The good house up behind, the albatross hollow, and every day for food or play came to the mariner's hollow. It missed the cloud, master shoulder perched for line, whiles all the night through smoke glimmered the moon. Save thee, ancient mariner, from the fiends that plague thee thus. Why look thou so? With my prospect, I should be out of us. And so it goes, and then as we get to the last section, we're clearly getting the curse that has been laid upon the ancient mariner. And he says, and now all in my own country I stood on firm land. The hermit stepped forth from the boat, and he scarcely could stand. Drive me, holy man, the hermit crossed his brow. Stay quick, quoth he, I bid thee stay. What manner of man art thou? But with its frame of wrenched, woeful agony, which forced me in my tale, and then it left me free. Since then, at an uncertain hour, the agony returns, until my ghastly tale is told, this heart within me burns. I pass like night from land to land. I have strange power of speech. At the moment that his face I see, I know that man must hear me. To him I teach. Oh, that being alone on a wide, wide sea, so long we paused that God himself scarce seemed there to be. Oh, sweet than the marriage feast, 'tis sweeter to me. Walk together to kirk with a goodly company. To walk together to the kirk and all together pray, while each of his great father bends, old men and babes and loving friends and youths and maidens gay. Farewell, farewell, but this I tell to thee, thou wedding guest. He prayeth who loveth well, both man, bird, and beast. Who loveth all things, both great and small. For the dear God who loveth us, he made and loveth all. The mariner whose eye is bright, whose beard with age hoar, gone, and now the wedding guest turned from the bridegroom's door. He went like one that hath been stunned, and is of sense forlorn. A sadder and a wiser man, he rose that morrow morn.
Those lines are very, those last two lines are very familiar and very real.
Yeah. Has everybody read it before?
Yeah.
A long time ago, though, not recently.
I remember at school we used to say,
yeah,
"'Tis an ancient mariner, and he stoppeth 1 in 3."
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
He maketh an indifferent goalkeeper, as you can plainly see.
We got that at school as well, Joe.
Yeah, I think every schoolboy had that. Yeah.
Our teacher said he stopped at 1 of 3 like the goalkeeper.
Yeah, he maketh a different goalkeeper.
Before we let go, there's a wonderful image which I passed over, but it talks about there be calmed in the doldrums. And he refers to that they were like a painted ship upon a painted ocean.
Ocean. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He began to write that on a visit with Coleridge, with
Oh,
Wordsworth,
with
and
okay.
Wordsworth, yeah.
Wordsworth gave him several of the glistening eye at the start. He gave him that, but 55 decades later, Wordsworth wrote a letter about the poem and about the events. And he said, in the autumn, this is Wordsworth, inverted commas, in the autumn of 1797, my sister and myself started from Alfoxden pretty late in the afternoon with the view to visit Linton and the Valley of the Stones near it. And it goes on about the hill walking. And in the course of the walk was planned the poem of the Ancient Mariner, founded on a dream, as Mr. Coleridge said, of his friend Mr. Cruikshank. Much of the greatest part of the story was Mr. Coleridge's invention, but certain parts I suggested. For example, some crime was to be committed which should bring upon the old navigator, as Coleridge afterwards delighted to call him, the spectral persecution as a consequence of that crime and his own wanderings. I had been reading in Sherlock's Voyages a day or two before that while doubling Cape Horn, they frequently saw albatrosses in that latitude, the largest sort of sea fowl, some extending their wings 12 or 13 feet. Suppose, said I, you represent him as having killed one of these birds on entering the South Sea, and that the tutelary spirits of these regions take upon them to avenge the crime. He goes on a bit more, but you can see he's talking about that famous walk, and so it's interesting that two of the greatest poets hovered around this, and in the end, Wordsworth denounced it and said he wanted no more to do with it.
He denounced it. Oh, I
He
didn't
said
know
that
that.
he wasn't going to do anymore, but he didn't want to hear any more about it.
He was just tired of it, or what?
Well, I don't know. He just tired of it, probably. Yeah, I don't think too many cooks can sometimes boil a broth, But it's very interesting that he gave him the idea, the albatrosses, and that the story is based on a dream of some guy called Sherlock.
I'd say they were taking something that those boys were taking at that time to get those dreams to come.
Right of some sort, yeah.
One of the interesting lines that I found, reading some analysis of it, they were saying that this is all about redemption and a cry for forgiveness, and pointing out the imagery of the albatross being shot with a crossbow representing Christ on the cross.
Yeah.
But like a lot of these things, you can read all sorts of stuff in.
Oh, you can, yeah. But it's still a fantastic poem. It's one of those.
It's a great poem.
One of those things if you call on to recite a few lines at a wedding or something, you might pick out a few. Maybe not the crossbow.
He certainly ruined the wedding for the wedding guest anyway. He went off a sadder and a wiser man the following morning.
And in the course of that holiday, they also actually did come across not a sailor, but an old soldier who was he was back from the wars, and he engaged them in heavy conversation, the two of them, while walking. This walking holiday they did together. So, but there you go, the albatrosses. Yeah,
I don't know what year it was, but I know that Coleridge is 1772 to 1834, so maybe somewhere around the 1800s.
It's 1797. He says that it was.
Is it? Okay.
This walk was famous. He had this cottage, and they 1797 and 1798.
Okay.
An important date in Irish history.
Yes, indeed.
Here, See.
Pity that they didn't have those crossbows in 1798.
Yeah,
might have done better.
Difference.
Okay.
Yeah, great. I think one of the reasons I think all of us studied this poem in school.
Yeah.
And I think because it's, it's kind of a thrilling poem. It's got good, strong rhythm in it. So it's,
Yeah.
it's a perfect poem to kind of carry one along. And it's got some drama. If I remember correctly, after the sailor shot the albatross, the winds stopped, right?
That's right. And they
And
were in the doldrums.
and did everyone in the crew die except for the shooter? Or am I making that up?
They were becalmed for quite a long time.
The line there, there's another line, water, water everywhere, nor any drop to drink.
Yeah. Water, water everywhere, and all the boards
Or to
drink.
shrink or something. Yeah,
Drink.
some, yeah, yeah,
Yes, 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 yes.
yeah. There's several fabulous lines in it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that particular water, water everywhere.
Yeah.
I actually have used many, many times in my life.
Yeah. Yeah. But as you
I,
said,
I would
Duncan,
imagine.
it's a kind of a thrilling poem to read when you read it first and a few times, because the whole kind of thing in it, yeah, and the albatross, and you can visualize so much in it, when in the stanzas, yeah.
To go back to your question, Duncan, it says they're past a weary time. Each throat was parched and glazed each eye. A weary time, how glazed each weary eye. When looking westward, I beheld a something in the sky. The little, then it seemed a mist. It moved and moved and took at last a certain shape I wist. With throat unflaked, with black lips baked, again they heard me call. Gramercy, they for joy did grin, and all at once their breath drew in, as they were drinking all. So they mustn't have died. They got water.
Hold on, they were drinking all.
Yep.
Did they drink seawater?
No.
No.
What they saw in the distance, a speck, a mist, a shape I wist, and still neared and neared. And if it dodged a water sprite, it plunged, hacked, and veered. Throats unslaked, black lips baked, we could not laugh nor wail. Through utter drought, all dumb we stood. I bit my arm, I sucked the blood and cried, a sail, a sail.
Oh, okay. They saw a sail in the distance. Is that right?
Yeah, yep,
It seems to me that one of the at least mythical benefits of the albatross is the albatross would follow the ships and perhaps even guide the ships because the
yeah.
albatross knew where land was. But
It, it,
they would use the ships as skipping stones, so to speak.
yeah. Let's point on to this again. The ship that appeared, um, he says, alas, thought I, and my heart beat loud, how fast she nears and nears. Are those her sails that glance in the sun like restless gossameres? Are those her ribs through which the sun did peer as through a grate? And is that woman all her crew? Is that a death? And are there two? Is death that woman's mate? So maybe they can get back. You might be right, Duncan. Her lips were red, her looks were free, her locks were yellow as gold, her skin was white as leprosy. The nightmare, life and death was she, who takes man's blood with cold. The naked hull alongside came, and the twain were casting dice. The game is done. I've won, quoth she, and whistles thrice. We could keep reading this all night. Somebody else should get it first.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much. It's good to hear the old sailors still going
strong.
still going strong. Yes. So, okay, now that brings us up to you, Joan.
Okay, I have a poem here by a poet by the name of George Trackle. I don't know if any of you have heard that name before. He is new to me. He is, however, recognized as one of the most important European poets of the 20th century. His visionary poetry has influenced not only latter poets, but also composers, artists, and filmmakers. The full measure of Trackle's genius can be, oh no, I don't need to read that,
Is
but
that TRAC?
Trakl.
Okay.
And he's
Has anybody
German.
else heard of? Has anybody heard of him?
No.
No.
In 1914, Trackle, as a dispensing chemist in the Austrian army, found the wherewithal to craft his magisterial poem Grodeck, which is the one I'm going to read. Grodeck is the name of a town in Galicia, Poland, where Austrians were defeated, and he was left to care for 90 wounded men, most of whose sufferings he could not relieve, some of whom committed suicide in his presence. Soon he would follow with a self-administered overdose of cocaine.
So he wrote the poem.
He wrote this poem,
He wrote this
Grodeck,
poem right at that time, and then he.
afterwards, and he soon. It was near the end of his life when he wrote that. He is. His is a poet's protest against the corrupt, fallen condition of humankind. His poems are very, dreary, with lots of doom and decay and in it. But
That's what we need on the 1st of September.
But the poem, I'm going to read his poem, and that will give you. Most of his poems have, after a while, they begin to sound the same, but he's expressing his ideas over. His language is beautiful. He is. I think he's a wonderful poet myself, and the first 14 lines of this poem describe the horrors of battle. Lines 15 and 17, the meaninglessness of war and sacrifice, and the sacrifice that's called for. And at the end, lines 15 and 17 suggest the abrupt death of a young man. So I'll read the poem. At evening, the autumn woods resound with deadly weapons. The golden plains and blue lakes, above which the sun rolls more darkly. Night embraces dying warriors, the wild lament of their shattered mouths. But the silence on the pasture land, red clouds in which a wrathful God resides, gathers the blood spilt lunar coolness. All roads lead to black putrefaction. Under golden shoots of night and stars, the sister's shadow sways through the silent grove to greet the ghosts of heroes, the bleeding heads, and softly in the reeds sound the dark flutes of autumn. O prouder grief, you brazen altars, tonight a mighty anguish feeds the hot flame of the spirit, the unborn descendants. That's about as dark as it comes, I think, in poetry.
War poet, doesn't he? Sounds like a war poet.
I think the war has influenced a lot of his
Yeah.
writings because he is pretty dour in his here is a short one I'll read quickly called Lament 2. Sleep in death, the dark eagles night long sweep about his head. Eternity's icy wave would engulf the golden image of man. On terrible reefs, his crimson body is smashed, and the dark voice laments over the sea. Sister of stormy melancholy, look, a fearful boat sinks beneath stars, the silent countenance of night. He uses a lot of, how should you explain it? Word colors and words to that he never really totally explains, which
Yeah.
are meaningful to
That's a
him.
look, silent countenance of night. That's really nice line.
Yeah,
Countenance. Night is silent.
it takes more than reading of one poem, to get the feel of him. But I think that Grodik is one of the poems that he is most noted for. The
Yes.
one I wrote about the.
Right. That's mhm.
To analyze it a little bit, the first line, at evening the autumn woods resound, he's contrasting autumn splendor with the violence of battle.
Yeah.
Of their shattered mouths, he's talking about the muted state of the dead. And later on, the sister's shadow sways through the silent grove. He's grateful for the nuns. And the short lines at the end, "Oh, prouder grief, you brazen altars," and the unborn descendants suggest the abrupt death of a young man.
Yes.
So
Well,
it's
yeah.
it's
It
a
reminds me of Quinet.
Hmm?
Reminds me of Quinet.
Quinet.
Yes.
I don't know that.
Quinet was a Frenchman. James Joyce uses Quinet. I believe
Yeah.
I believe his name is Quinet, who talks about, no matter how much blood is spilled on the battlefield, flowers will grow again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in the Grodik poem, I think the interesting thing about it is that he makes it very clear that the natural world, the non-human world, is doing just fine. It's just beautiful and peaceful and cycling.
Yeah.
And it's really human beings, and particularly men, who are out there slaughtering each other while the rest of creation is rolling along.
Yeah. It's only a one species problem.
Here it says here, the complexity of Trakell's imagery is a result of a mind that, in order to continue without fragmenting entirely, must create an alternative poetic language as a bulwark against an increasingly onerous and destructive external reality. Only through this dream reconfiguration of the past, the shaping of nature into complex patterns of symbol and illusion, can the inherent absurdity of existence and personal failure to return spiritual authenticity in a world increasingly stripped of it be atoned.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is absolutely, you got him. But,
Yeah, I think so. I mean, and Joyce is doing kind of the same thing, in my opinion, which is why he used a lot of Quinet. And I'm trying to think, is Quinet, God, this is to point out my ignorance. I think Quinet is mainly in Finnegan's Wake, a few references to Quinet, if I'm not mistaken.
oh, I can't remember.
Yeah, it's in Finnegan's Wake, yeah. About the flowers.
about the flowers, and it's
Yeah.
it's that
That despite
same
everything,
imagery, and then
the
it's
flowers grow. Yeah.
the
Yeah.
Viconian cycles also.
Yeah.
He used this one. Trackle uses a lot of symbols. That was the word I was looking for. Many symbols in his writing, which you can't always tell what the symbol is for.
Oh, okay, okay. Can you give me an example of a symbol that he used that you can't tell what the symbol's for?
Oh, I think the colors that he uses a lot is one of the things. He'll describe something as being a blue this or a yellow that, and you can kind of get it through the context of the poem, but does it mean sad? Does it mean happy? Does it mean death, or does it mean sickness? You know, you're never quite sure. At least I'm not. I shouldn't say
Okay.
you.
Yeah, well, you know, it's not always a happy thing to paint one's own species as the blackest thing around.
Well, his poems are pretty dark. they're they're not like Dylan Thomas, who can bring you a lot of joy.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, Dylan, Thomas also has some very dark things in his
Mhm.
poetry.
Yeah,
And
his demons.
his life certainly had some darkness in it.
Well, he drank a lot.
He
Yeah,
drank himself to death.
Yeah,
you
he
know,
and Behan.
It's just the track. He was only 20. Tracker was only 27. I just googled him there when he died.
Wow.
He died shortly after this poem, which was written,
Yeah,
I believe, in 1914.
yeah, he's 27.
Mm.
and he died of
So
an
young.
overdose of cocaine.
Mm.
Yeah, he
Yep.
he committed suicide with the
He
cocaine.
committed suicide. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a picture of him in my book, and I don't know if I can hold it up. I don't know if I think the picture is, if you can see it well enough, it all kind of shows on his face.
Pain.
He was a World War One fellow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's 27. He looks like he's 50.
Yeah.
I know. Different times, isn't it?
Yeah.
You can see the yeah, how disturbed he is, I think, looking at his face.
Yes.
It's very hard. It is very hard to witness
It's very contained.
masses of people killing each other.
Yeah.
Well, and I think he was mostly influenced by these boys he was trying to help that were cured. You can imagine the things that he was seeing,
Yeah.
and he wasn't really trained to
Right.
help.
Right. Well, the two films, the original film of All's Quiet on the Western Front, and then the most recent remake of All's Quiet on the Western Front, really get that stuff across very clearly.
The recent one, which is done in German.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it does a really good job, starting with, the schoolboys being very excited about going to war, and the teacher, protect the nation, strengthen the nation, blah, blah, blah. And then, within an hour and a half, the main boy is faced with living nightmare.
It was a very serious looking photograph of him, if you can see it.
Oh, is that Trackle?
Yeah, very intense, isn't it?
You can see it there too. You can see that.
Yeah. particularly with the front-on view of him rather than the side view that we saw.
Yeah.
Hmm. Well, thank you very much, Joan. Yeah.
Well, I thought I would do one that people weren't familiar with.
So, Joan, you have a very strong interest in literature. What is this just totally a personal thing of yours?
Um, I I don't know. I may have inherited it. I think my mother's family was all readers, but by the time I was old enough to see what she was reading mystery stories. So, uh,
Mm-hmm.
but I may have, but yeah, lately I haven't been able to read very. I've been, I don't know, too distracted to read as much as I like, which has been an unhappy kind of thing.
Actually, reading and watching good films was my salvation
Yeah.
during this
No, but I've
ugly
read
time.
a lot. I've read a lot of a lot of stuff.
Yeah, very good. I mean, I've never heard of Trackle. Maybe one of these times, if I can remember, I will read part of the book When We Cease to Understand.
Who wrote that?
He's a Chilean writer who was raised in France. I can't remember his name right now. It is an incredibly good book, but very difficult. It's very black. And it is based in physicist.
Well, Trackle was a favorite of Rilke's, who concluded, for me, the Trackle poem is an object of sublime existence.
Yeah.
Huh.
So I think that's a good recommendation.
Yeah, if you can get Rilke to recommend you, you're doing pretty good.
Yeah.
Okay.
So-
Joe, are you ready?
Well, I'm as ready as I'm ever going to be.
Okay.
Joe, before you forget, if I have to leave in the middle of your presentation, forgive me. I've got to go to a Labor Day affair.
That's no problem, Joe, at all. I'll just take out my gun and blow my brains out. It's okay.
Yeah.
No problem. But anyway, I had decided not to do this 3 or 4 times, and a few minutes ago I've decided to do it. It takes us back to, I think, last time or the time before. And this lady, Maeve Brennan, has written The Long-Winded Lady, which are kind of tales of New York. But she is Irish, or she was Irish. And I am friends since childhood with her nephew. Not Roddy Doyle, but a guy called Alan. And we had our biannual celebration of his aunt Maeve. And I asked him a question I had raised myself here, because in this she mentions cats. And I said, is there any connection between a short story called Breakfast at Tiffany's by Truman Capote?
Mm-hmm.
And that's whatever her name is, the actress who bears a stunning resemblance to Maeve.
Audrey Hepburn.
Audrey Hepburn.
Hepburn, that's it, yeah. Now, and he said 2 yeses. He said definitely Truman Capote. He was one of her co-workers in the New Yorker. They were the best of friends. And then I asked the question about the cats. And he said she always had cats and she was always talking about them. I am therefore going to read a little extract from Breakfast at Tiffany's. by Truman Capote, which comes at the end of the book. Holly Golightly, who looks like and could well be Maeve Brennan, has got into a very complicated situation of her life, and she's leaving town. She's leaving the city of New York, and she's going to somewhere in Africa, which turns out to be Brazil, and and she has a cat. So she asks him to come around. There's all sorts of gangsterism going on around this, which I'm skipping. And she's caught in a web, and the press are onto it, and photographs and all this sort of stuff. And she's trying to get out of town in a hurry. And she asks the narrator to bring her cat along. The cat has no name. And they get into her car. The chauffeur, I suppose that's the taxi driver, was a worldly specimen who accepted our slapdash luggage most civilly and remained rock-faced when, as the limousine swished uptown through a lessening rain, Holly stripped off her clothes, the riding costume she'd never had a chance to substitute, and struggled into a slim black dress. We didn't talk. Talk could only have led to argument. And also, Holly seemed too preoccupied for conversation. She hummed to herself, swigging brandy. She leaned constantly forward to peer out of the windows as if she were hunting an address. Or, I decided, taking a last impression of a scene she wanted to remember. It was neither of these. But this. Stop here, she ordered the driver. And as we pulled to the curb of a street in Spanish Harlem, a savage, a garish, a moody neighborhood, garlanded with poster portraits of movie stars, sidewalk litterings of fruit rind and rotted newspaper were hurled about by the wind, for the wind still boomed. Through the rain, though the rain had hushed, and there were bursts of blue in the sky, Holly stepped out of the car. She took the cat with her. Cradling him, she scratched his head and asked, "What do you think? This ought to be the right kind of place for a tough guy like you. Garbage cans, rats galore, plenty of cat bums to gang around with. So scram," said, dropping him. When he did not move away, instead raised his thug face and questioned her yellowish pirate eyes, she stamped her foot. I said, "Beat it!" Rubbed against her leg. I said, "F off!" she shouted, then jumped back into the car, slammed the door and said, "Go!" to the driver. "Go, go!" I was, and you are. We traveled a block before she replied, "I told you. We just met by the river one day, that's all. Independents, both of us. Never made each other any promises. We never," she said, and her voice collapsed. Tick. An invalid an invalid whiteness seized her face. The car had paused for a traffic light. Then she opened the door and was running down the street. I ran after, but the cat was not at the corner where he'd been left. There was no one, nothing on the street except a urinating drunk and two Negro nuns herding a file of sweet-singing children. Other children emerged from doorways. "You, cat, where are you? Here, cat." She kept it up until a bumpy-skinned boy came forward, dangling an old Tom by the scruff of its neck. "You want a nice kitty, miss? Give me $1." The limousine had followed us. Now Holly let me steer her towards it. At the door, she hesitated. She looked past me, past the boy still offering his cat. $1/2, 2 bits. 2 bits ain't much, ma'am. And she shuddered. Oh, Jesus God. We did belong to each other. He was mine. Then I made her a promise. I said I'd come back and find her cat. I'll take care of him too, I promise. She smiled, that cheerless new pinch of a smile. And it goes on to talk how scared she was, and they go to the airport and gangland stuff breaks out. And he doesn't, she's left the country. And he said she'd be in touch, all sorts of bits and pieces. In the spring, a postcard came. It was scribbled in pencil and signed in lipstick. Brazil was beastly, but Buenos Aires the best. Not Tiffany's, but almost. And she goes on to say various things. We'll let you know address when I know it myself. But the address, if it ever existed, never was sent. What made me sad, there was so much I wanted to write to her. And he goes on to list things that had happened, but mostly I wanted to tell her about her cat. I had kept my promise. I had found him. It took weeks of after-work roaming through those Spanish Harlem streets, and there were many false alarms, flashes of tiger-shaped fur that upon inspection were not him. One day, one cold, sunshiny Sunday winter afternoon, it was. Flanked by potted plants and framed by clean lace curtains, he was seated in the window of a warm-looking room. I wondered what his name was, for I was certain that he had one now. Certain he'd arrived somewhere he belonged. I hope Holly has too.
Oh,
And that, my friend Alan said, has to. He was forced to listen to this too, by the way, which is why I said this is going to work with the group. But he said that is, there's some sort of a story about a cat she lost. And
there's a cat sitting right here that was a little worried while you were talking.
there you go. Nice, through a capote.
That's great. That's great.
But
I've
that
heard of
might
Breakfast
be-
at Tiffany's since I was, 10 years old. And that's,
Yeah.
Yeah, so there you go.
there you go.
I'm glad
Thank
I
you
read
very
it now. I thought it was too soppy. I thought I'd break down during it if I tried. It was bad enough in the pub.
Mm.
So there.
It raises a lot of different emotions in reading that story.
If you know anything about cats, that cat doesn't, he rubs up against her and you look, it's, so it seems to capture the breaking of a heart there that Truman Capote was aware of.
Uh-huh.
And he uses it as the final thing. So there we are.
I missed all that reading because my line went down. But I just wanted to say, I thought the photograph on the front of the book looks very like our Orla.
Well, yeah, my
Yes.
Maybe it's the glass.
yeah, and Orla went and bought she bought these two books, but this is the real book here, and but he was delighted that it had been, because anything that you can see there's Audrey Hepburn,
Yeah.
the hair
Mhm.
similar, but
Of course.
he was delighted that the group had listened to me, so I got a lot of marks for that.
Well done.
Very
Is
good.
Maeve Brennan.
Thank
There
you
you
very
go.
much. That's the first I've ever heard anything from Breakfast at Tiffany's.
Yeah,
Mm.
I promise never to do another cat story.
No. Don't make any promises.
What do you think?
It's fine.
What do you think?
It's fine. Yeah. So I think maybe we're ready to hear from you, Tom.
Yeah, it's a poem by Mary Oliver, the American poet from Ohio,
Yeah.
and it's called The Snowshoe Hare. The fox is so quiet, he moves like a red rain, even when his shoulders tense, and then snuggle down for an instant against the ground, and the perfect gate of his teeth slams shut, There is nothing you can hear but the cold creek moving over the dark pebbles and across the field and into the rest of the world. And even when you find in the morning the feathery scuffs of fur of the vanished snowshoe hare, tangled on the pale spires of the broken flowers of the lost summer, fluttering a little, but only like the lapping threads of the wind itself, there is still nothing that you can hear but the cold creek moving over the old pebbles and across the field and into another year. Yeah, so it's
What's
what you
her
got.
name again, Tom?
It's Mary Oliver.
Mary Oliver. Okay.
Yeah, I think she died in 2019. But most of her poetry is about nature and her relation to it and kind of thing, you know. But I like what she does there without actually describing something. She tells us what's happened. You know, I think it's I think the really good writers can do that, yeah. So and the images in it, especially like, you know, and you do see that in the country a lot. You'd see sheep's wool and barbed wire, or you see hares kind of thing on barbed wire, you know, and it's kind of, you know, tangled on the pale spires of the broken flowers, you know. It's a lovely kind of image. Yeah.
She's very popular in the States.
Yeah, she was one of the most popular poets. Yeah. She was doing something with that other poet, Saint Millay, the other American poet who's written some beautiful poems as well, and who had an extraordinary life. And I think she went to stay with her sister, and they were kind of revising a lot of Millay's poems. Yeah.
Her partner was Mary Malone Cook. Sorry, Molly Malone Cook.
Molly Malone. There we are. Yeah, yeah.
That's a nice, that poem is a nice contrast with Treacle.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, because in it we have death,
Yeah.
but it's not appalling death.
No, no.
You just kind of go, well, that's what happens, you know.
Yeah, and
rabbits.
Yeah, and when you say that, I think of the river. Where she describes the river, you know, the river just flows on, regardless of what has happened. Yeah, yeah. Whole creek moving. Yeah.
That's excellent. Well, let me see here. I called this up. This is going to be different. I'm going to read the beginning of the book 100 Years of Solitude by Garcia Marquez. Of course, it's in translation. So here's chapter 1. And I'll just have to intuit where I'm going to start. I think I see where I can reasonably stop. Okay, here we go. Many years later, as he faced the firing squad, Coronel Ariano Buendia was to remember that distant afternoon when his father took him to discover ice. At the time, Macondo was a village of 20 adobe houses, built on the bank of a river of clear water that ran along a bed of polished stones, which were white and enormous, like prehistoric eggs. The world was so recent that many things lacked names, and in order to indicate them, it was necessary to point. Every year, during the month of March, a family of ragged gypsies would set up their tents near the village, and with a great uproar of pipes and kettle drums, they would display new inventions. First, they brought the magnet. A heavy gypsy with untamed beard and sparrow hands who introduced himself as Melquiades put on a bold public demonstration of what he himself called the eighth wonder of the learned alchemist of Macedonia. He went from house to house, dragging 2 metal ingots, and everyone was amazed to see pots, pans, tongs, braziers tumble down from their places, and beams creak from the desperation of nails and screws trying to emerge, and even objects that had been lost for a long time appeared from where they had been searched for most, and went dragging along in turbulent confusion behind Melquiades' magical irons. Things have a life of their own, the gypsy proclaimed with a harsh accent. It is simply a matter of waking up their souls. Jose Arcadio Buendia, whose unbridled imagination always went beyond the genius of nature, and even beyond miracles and magic, thought it would be impossible to make use of that useless invention. Thought it would be possible, thought it would be possible to make use of that useless invention to extract gold from the bowels of the earth. Melquiades, who was an honest man, warned him, "It won't work for that." But Jose Arcadio Buendia at that time did not believe in the honesty of gypsies, so he traded his mule and a pair of goats for the 2 magnetized ingots. Ursula Iguaran, his wife, who relied on those animals to increase their poor domestic holdings, was unable to dissuade him. "Very soon we will have gold enough and more to pave the floors of the house," her husband replied. For several months he worked hard to demonstrate the truth of his idea. He explored every inch of the region, even the riverbed, dragging the 2 iron ingots along and reciting Melquiades' incantation aloud. The only thing he succeeded to do was to unearth a suit of 15th century armor, which had all of its pieces soldered together with rust, and inside of which there was a hollow resonance of an enormous stone-filled gourd. When Jose Arcadio Buendia and the 4 men of his expedition managed to take the armor apart, they found inside a calcified skeleton with a copper lock containing a woman's hair around its neck. In March, the gypsies returned. This time, they brought a telescope and a magnifying glass the size of a drum, which they exhibited as the latest discovery of the Jews of Amsterdam. They placed a gypsy woman at one end of the village and set up the telescope at the entrance to the tent. For the price of 5 reales, people would look into the telescope and see the gypsy woman an arm's length away. "Science has eliminated distance," Melquiades proclaimed. "In a short time, man will be able to see what is happening in any place of the world without leaving his house." A burning noonday sun brought out a startling demonstration with a gigantic magnifying glass. They put a pile of dry hay in the middle of the street and set it afire by concentrating the sun's rays. Jose Arcadio Buendia, who still had not been consoled for the failure of the big magnets, conceived the idea of using that invention as a weapon of war. Again, Melquiades tried to dissuade him, but he finally accepted the 2 magnetized ingots and 3 colonial coins in exchange for the magnifying glass. Ursula wept in consternation. That money was from a chest of gold coins that her father had put together over an entire life of privation, and that she had buried underneath her bed in hopes of a proper occasion to make use of it. Jose Arcadio Buendia made no attempt to console her, completely absorbed in his tactical experiments with the abnegation of a scientist, and even at the risk of his own life. In an attempt to show the effects of the glass on enemy troops, he exposed himself to the concentration of the sun's rays and suffered burns which turned into sores, which took a long time to heal. Over the protest of his wife, who was alarmed at such a dangerous invention, at one point he was ready to set the house on fire. He would spend hours on end in his room calculating the strategic possibilities of his novel weapon until he succeeded in putting together a manual of startling instructional clarity and an irresistible power of conviction. He sent it to the government, accompanied by numerous descriptions of his experiments and several pages of explanatory sketches. By a messenger who crossed the mountains, got lost in measureless swamps, forded stormy rivers, and was on the point of perishing under the lash of despair, plague, and wild beast, until he found a route that joined the one used by the mules that carried the mail. In spite of the fact that a trip to the capital was a little less than impossible at that time, Jose Arcadio Buendia promised to undertake it as soon as the government ordered him to do so. And I will stop there.
That's just hilarious.
Oh, it goes on. I mean,
Is the rest
it
of the
is
book?
it is a non-stop novel of madness
Of
and
human nature.
hilarity.
Yeah. The magnets. Oh, the gold. Oh, the gypsies. Wow. I've never read anything by him.
Well, the two that I would recommend is 100 Years of Solitude and Love in the Time of Cholera.
Yeah.
And they're both very, very good. And actually, they're both available in an audio form, and the readers are very good. So,
Yeah, I think Tom, Lisa Keating in Sweeney, she did her master's thesis on him. I
Oh,
think
yeah,
Time of Cholera, was it? She,
yeah,
she would speak about it, but she's not the sort of person to kind of force her
yeah, yeah,
conversation, but she was very, very learned about it. I've
yeah.
often heard.
It's
Interesting.
famous, yeah. They're famous novels. Like, I never, I didn't finish either of them. I stopped. But I think the other is the other Argentinian, or is he Argentinian or
he's Colombian.
Colombian, and the other South American, Losa.
Mario
Yeah,
Lawson,
yeah.
yes.
He wrote a magnificent book on casement.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, and he has other things, but he has essays on the death of culture, which is really good. But yeah, I mean, you get these writers, like you come across them and you kind of try and take in what they say, and then you forget them. Yeah, but
Is it
yeah,
magical realism? Is that
some kind of thing like that, Joe.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what
Yeah, that's a general
That's just
yeah,
category that they're
yeah,
put under is magical realism.
yeah. But
Yeah. It would be, I don't think I could stop laughing reading that book. It's just phenomenal.
Well, I
So
think the secret of those books is that take them off your shelf every once in a while and read a few pages.
Yeah.
Dust them off.
Dust them off and read just a few pages because
Yeah,
they're so rich in humor
yeah.
that you kind of wear out your laughter gland.
Mm.
Like as he faced the firing squad as an opening line, and then you don't hear any more about the firing squad.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, it's wonderful. Beautifully
Yeah.
read.
Anyway, I like him. There's a number of South American writers that I like.
Yeah.
There's another one. There's a couple of Losa has a number of talks that he gives
Yeah. Mm.
that are on YouTube. And
Yeah.
Losa wrote this madcap book. Now, Losa is Peruvian.
Oh, it's Peru, right? Yeah.
He's from Peru.
Yeah.
But one of his wildest books is about a Messiah, a four-person's Messiah in the scrublands of Brazil.
Yeah.
Great, great.
And it was literally one of these things where this holy man, this ragged holy man who traveled from village to village, followed by hundreds of people,
Yeah,
started a revolution.
yeah.
Did Lhasa himself enter politics
I think he
at
did.
some? I think he did too, or attempted to, stand as for presidency or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
But,
And Losa was very prolific.
yeah.
But that particular book attracted me, and he, because Portuguese is a second language to Losa. But he
Okay.
went, he studied Portuguese, and he studied the documents related to this
Mm.
now little known.
And I was surprised. I can't think of the name of it, but I was surprised that he took casement as a subject. And I remember reading that, and it's really, really good. But that's the only thing I really read by him, and the essays on the death of culture and so forth. Yeah, but
Death of culture.
those two books, that you mentioned, the other guy, Solitude and
Blood of the Time of Cholera, Dream of the Celt.
Dream of the Celt. That's it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I take some solace against our species' madness in the arts, and particularly in reading.
Yeah.
And today was a good harvest.
Absolutely.
It was a good harvest, and so I thank everybody. And next Monday, I suspect we might finish the trial.
We return to Kay and see how he's getting on.
Yes.
Do you notice that he's got the same initials as me, Joseph K?
Yeah, I know.
Thinking it's about me. It's very confusing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Okay. Thanks again.
Okay.
And there you go. And
Thanks, Duncan. Yeah.
And remember, if you
And
haven't,
everyone.
Alice in Wonderland is going to come after we do finish the trial.
Okay.
And then we'll need probably about the time we start Alice in Wonderland. Did we make a decision of what happens after Alice, or did we punt?
Oh.
I guess we have not made a decision. So that's something to think about also.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Take care.